The first car cost $1,000. Not $1,000 exactly. $1,200 after registration, $1,640 after insurance, $2,100 after the mechanic tells you that your brakes are technically safe. It's a 2004 Honda Civic with faded paint and one speaker that works only when the weather is warm. The driver's side window doesn't open. You bought it from a man at a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot who said, she'll get you where you need to go. And somehow, she always does. You sit in that car differently than people sit in their expensive cars. Every sound matters. Every vibration means something. You drive with the radio low because you're listening to that pothole you just hit. You know exactly how much gas in the tank at all times. You park far away because you're afraid someone might hit it, and insurance won't cover anything meaningful anyway. At this level, a car is not freedom. It's survival with wheels. The first rule. Cheap cars don't save money. They delay larger problems. But none of that matters the first night you drive alone at 1:13 a.m. with nowhere specific to go. Because for the first time in your life, movement belongs to you. That feeling is worth everything. At $5,000 though, the car changes. Not dramatically, but enough. The paint matches now, mostly. The air conditioner works if you don't put it on full blast. The Bluetooth adapter hangs awkwardly from the dashboard. The steering wheel doesn't shake anymore when you hit 60 miles per hour. You feel normal. That's the word people chase at this level. Not luxury, not status, normal. You stop worrying whether the car will start in the morning. You stop rehearsing conversations with the tow truck drivers in your head. You began offering people rides instead of apologizing for the condition that your car is in before they get inside. And slowly, something shifts. You realize transportation affects dignity more than people admit. You pull into work differently. You arrive at dates differently. You start parking 3 blocks away so nobody sees what you drive. The psychological weight of a liability is invisible until you experience it. The second rule. People think they want expensive cars. Most people actually want predictable mornings. At $12,000, you buy your first car that feels intentional. Not random, not inherited, not temporary, but chosen. You spend 3 straight weekends watching YouTube reviews before you even buy it. You compare mileage, ownership costs, crash ratings, resale value. You start saying words like maintenance history. This is the level where cars stop being emergencies and start becoming identities. You wash it yourself on Sundays. You glance back at it after parking, not because it's impressive, because it's yours. You are 27 years old now. You remember the Civic. You remember driving home praying no warning lights came on. This car doesn't make you rich, but it makes you feel like your life is moving forward. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough. Then comes $30,000. This is where the illusion begins. Because this is the first time a car feels emotional instead of practical. Leather seats, panoramic roof, ambient lighting, a screen large enough to make you feel technologically successful. You tell yourself, I deserve this. And maybe you do. You begin timing your exit from the vehicle when people are watching. You care where the logo sits on the steering wheel. You learn the dangerous difference between transportation and validation. The monthly payment is $640. You say it's manageable, and technically, it is. But now you notice something else. You can't leave your job as easily anymore. You used to think expensive cars represented freedom. Then you signed a 6-year loan. The shift. A financed luxury car is often rented confidence. Still, you understand why people do it. Because status is addictive when you lived without it. You pull into family gatherings differently. Old classmates notice. People online ask, what do you do for work? What kind of car is that? I see you getting money. You answer casually, but you answer faster than you used to. At $50,000, the car becomes a reward system. This is where performance enters the conversation. The engine matters now. Horsepower matters. Acceleration matters. You are no longer buying transportation. You are buying a feeling. You remember the first time you truly accelerated onto the highway. Not aggressively, just enough. Enough to feel power respond instantly. Enough to realize speed changes your relationship with the road entirely. You stop driving passively. You began controlling space around you. And underneath it all is emotion, a rush. Because expensive cars are rarely about impressing strangers. They're about escaping old versions of yourself. The third rule. Most luxury purchases are emotional evidence. Proof that your old life no longer owns you. At $80,000, the car is no longer just nice. It's respected. This is where the brand starts speaking before you do. People assume things about you immediately. Competent, successful, disciplined, important. You haven't said a single word yet. That's how powerful symbols are. You start noticing where other people look when you pull up. Not everyone, but enough. The valet treats you different. The dealerships offer you coffee in real cups, not instead of paper cups. People at work joke that you're doing well. You laugh modestly. But part of you enjoy hearing it. And this is where the trap deepens. Because once external validation enters the equation, downgrading becomes psychologically painful. You are not maintaining a vehicle anymore. You are maintaining an image. At $120,000, the car enters another category entirely. Now strangers photograph it. Children point at it from sidewalks. Gas stations become conversations. You tell yourself attention doesn't matter. Then you notice how quiet your life feels when you drive something else. This level introduces a dangerous new addiction. Recognition. Not money, not speed, recognition. You realize exotic cars create instant social shortcuts. People assume access, connections, influence, even if none of it is true. You are 34 now. The car costs more than your parents' first house did. That thought stays with you longer than expected. You begin hiding certain purchases from certain people, not because you're ashamed, because explaining success becomes exhausting. The fourth rule. The higher the price tag, the smaller the circle of people genuinely happy for you. At $200,000, cars stop feeling like products. They begin feeling like events. The dealership experience changes completely. No giant showroom, no balloons, no loud sales floor. Quiet rooms, private conversations, concierge delivery. You are no longer treated like a customer. You are treated like an asset. And suddenly, you understand something important. Luxury is not about having more. It's about removing friction. The paperwork arrives at your house. The maintenance pickup happens automatically. People know your name before you introduce yourself. The car itself is absurdly fast, almost unusably fast. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. The first time you launch it, you laugh. Not because it's practical, because your brain cannot fully process the acceleration. At this level, speed becomes surreal. But the emotional experience changes too. You expect excitement. What arrives instead is calm. The cabin is silent. The ride is smooth. The power is effortless. Real luxury whispers. It does not scream. At $350,000, the car becomes art. Limited production, custom interior, hand-stitched materials, paint colors with names longer than some movie titles. People stop asking, how fast is it? Now they ask, how many were made? Scarcity enters the conversation. And scarcity changes human behavior immediately. You begin protecting the car differently. Not because you can't replace it, because rarity creates attachment. You avoid parking lots entirely. You memorize road imperfections. Dodging every pothole, you become aware of curbs in ways normal people never think about. The car is no longer transportation. It is a stewardship. And somewhere along the way, you stop driving aggressively altogether. This surprises you. When you were younger, you imagined expensive cars meaning driving faster. In reality, the people with the most expensive cars often drive the calmest, because urgency disappears when your life no longer feels behind. The shift. Wealth changes how fast people move through the world. At $500,000, your garage starts to become a collection. Not intentionally at first. It just happens. One car for weekends, one for meetings, one for traveling, one you swear you'll eventually see but never do. And now the cars begin representing different versions of yourself. The rugged one, the elegant one, the reckless one, the nostalgic one, the famous one. You understand collectors now, not because of the vehicles, because objects can preserve identities people are afraid to lose. You buy a car your teenage self has a poster of, not because it's the best car, because younger you would lose his mind if he saw it. That feeling matters more than performance numbers ever could. You began attending private events, track days, invitations, launch parties, rooms filled with people whose watches cost more than your first apartment, and something unexpected happens. Nobody is trying to impress each other. The truly wealthy rarely behave the way poor people would imagine. There's less shouting, less showing off, less proving. Because once everyone has money, status becomes more subtle. The fifth rule: at lower levels, luxury is volume. At higher levels, luxury is precision. At 1 million, the car stops being the point entirely. This confuses people the most because everyone assumes $1 million car owner must be obsessed with cars. Sometimes they are, but often the car represents something else completely. Time, freedom, proof. You are 42 now. You remember the civic times, not dramatically, just randomly. Like when you hear an old song while driving at night. You remember checking the gas gauge constantly. You remember turning the radio down to listen for engine problems. You remember calculating whether you could afford repairs before opening the mechanic's text message. And now you are driving a machine engineered with obsessive precision. Carbon fiber body panels, custom built engine, a waiting list longer than some college admissions processes. People stop and stare everywhere you go. Phones come out instantly. Children scream the brand name from sidewalks. And for a moment, you feel something close to what you expected wealth to feel like years ago. Not happiness, not fulfillment, presence. The car forces you into the moment because everybody around you is reacting to it. But then the light turns green. And eventually, it becomes normal too. That's the part no one explains about luxury. Human begins normalizing almost everything. The first week feels surreal. The 6th month feels routine. The 3rd year feels familiar. This is why chasing symbols never fully works. The emotional finish line keeps moving. Still, there are moments, late at night, empty roads, city lights reflecting across the windshield, moments where you understand why people dedicate entire lives to building enough money to experience machines like this. Not because the car changes who they are, because it temporarily reconnects them with who they thought they could be. That feeling is powerful. But eventually, even that evolves. You start caring less about acquisition, more about experience. You take the car on longer drives, less events, less attention, less performance. You begin appreciating silence again. And slowly, almost strangely, you become harder to impress. Because after enough escalation, the nervous system adapts. The $1 million car creates the same realization every extreme luxury event creates. Comfort has diminished emotional returns. You notice yourself spending more time at home, more time with fewer friends, more time thinking about how much of your life was spent chasing milestones that disappeared emotionally within weeks of driving. And this is the final shift. At the beginning, cars represented survival. Then they represented stability, then status, then identity, then proof. But eventually, they become mirrors. They reveal what stage of life someone is actually in. The broke person dreams about owning one. The successful person dreams about upgrading one. The wealthy person dreams about needing none of it to feel complete. And somewhere between the first $1,000 car and the $1 million machine, you realize the vehicles were never really the story. You were. Because every level of car ownership was actually documenting a different version of your mind. The fear-driven version, the ambitious version, the insecure version, the proving version, the peaceful version. That's why people become emotional about cars. Not because of engines, not because of speed, because certain vehicles become timestamps for entire eras of life. You don't remember every paycheck. You remember the first car you bought after things started working out. You remember the car you drove during heartbreak, the car you drove when you finally left your old job, the car you sat in after getting life-changing news. Machines become memory containers. And memory is what people are really protecting when they spend irrational amounts of money on objects. By the end, the strange realization is every level thought the next one would feel permanent. The person with the $1,000 car thinks reliability changes everything. The person with the $30,000 car thinks luxury changes everything. The person with the $200,000 car thinks status changes everything. The person with the multi-million-dollar car eventually understands nothing external changes your personality. It's only amplified who you already were. And if there is one final rule, it's this. The car was never the destination. It was the emotional evidence that your life was moving. Subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you on the next one.